It's been 4 years since I covered the original Metroid, and I was always planning to go in the in-universe timeline order, but not having the most recent at the time Wii version was holding me back. So the release of Metroid Prime Remastered last year has really helped me out. I first knew about the upcoming Metroid Prime when I first got my GameCube, and the game case has always had these little leaflets with available and soon to be released games. That's where I saw Metroid Prime screenshots, unaware that Fusion was even on its way first. I've never been huge into the FPS genre, so my first instinct was to feel a bit let down that for most of the gameplay I'd only see Samus's arm cannon. But like the Wind Waker graphics, it was just a minor surprise that I got over in no time. It was actually the final game of the original Prime trilogy I managed to own. My aunt owned it when it was new and I got to play a bit of it then, but things never really worked out for me to get my own copy until summer of 2009, after I'd already owned Prime 2 and Prime 3 for a while. I do have fond memories of those playthroughs I did that summer, along with other games I happened to play at that time, because it was the extra long summer holiday after I finally finished secondary school, and my naive 16-year-old self felt like I was free for the rest of my life for a few months. But enough reminiscing, let's get into the game. First, the gallery has been reworked from the original version, with artwork, music, and a Smash Bros. Trophy-esque model gallery being slowly opened up through playing the game and collecting items and scan logs. I start with just the gunship, and already I have a very small nitpick. I've never been a big fan of this game's take on Samus's ship. I don't like how it's more long at the back than it is wide at the sides like it was in the 2D games. It also just looks a bit too rectangular for my tastes. Probably my least favourite take on the main yellow-orange gunship at least. But as I said, very minor complaint. On starting a new game, Samus is already responding to a distress call from a vessel orbiting the planet Talon 4. Despite being the 5th game released, this is set second in the timeline, shortly after the first Metroid game. We get this narration that was always there for PAL players since the GameCube, but was only added to the Wii version onward for the US. Some dude with a deep voice basically saying, "Samus is the best. This is another cool thing Samus did." Samus then pulls up at the origin of the distress call, gets out and does a cool flip down to the ground so we can get started on the game's opening section, the frigate Orpheon. This game's combat is based around a lock-on system, and so the opening gear gets you used to it by having you lock on to all 4 switches and shooting them to open it. Next I'm taught about Samus's different visors, the only starting one other than the combat visor being the scan visor. Aside from letting me obsessively catalogue everything in the game, I can use it on a few monitors like this to turn on the switches to the next gate so I can shoot them to open it. I start with a few of the series' staple power-ups, but I'll get to them when they become relevant. The classic Metroid blue doors make a return, needing just a single shot to open, allowing me to enter the main docking bay. All over the game are bits of data and logs I can scan. Even the ones that aren't required to scan to 100% still have some form of lore and world building in them. I run through this corridor and go through the door at the end into the airlock. In here there's bits of rubble and the odd dead animal floating around until I scan this switch to repressurise the place. I have to wait for that to be done before I can go through the door to the Deck Alpha access hall. Another straightforward corridor to the door to the emergency evacuation area. There's a massive dead creature in here, but scanning it shows that Samus has no idea what it is other than it was probably killed by loads of radiation. By another corpse I get my first proper logbook entry in the creatures section, a parasite. Native to Talon 4 and usually travelling in large groups, this one is alone and killed by a single shot. I have a few more bits to scan around here. The escape pods have already buggered off and there's data for a hazardous material known as Phazon being stored all over the frigate. Moving further through the room, I scan the bodies the parasites are eating to find that they are space pirates. These have been killed by chemical burns from an unknown substance. One of the space pirates in the back is still barely alive, having been bitten by something huge. Might put him out of his misery. The source of the bite may be the tail of the huge dead creature, which has a mouth on the end which Samus believes is used for birthing. I also see that the escape pods that have left were all bound for Talon 4. Next to that is the door to the Deck Alpha Umbilical Hall. Samus starts with a charge beam returning from Super Metroid. I can use it to blow up the rubble blocking this hall. Then through the door at the end into the map facility. I get to see a group of parasites run off to a tunnel that's too small for Samus. Though it would be if she didn't start with the Morph Ball, which also starts with the bombs, of which I can use 3 before needing to wait for them to recharge. The Morph Ball is the only part of the game where gameplay is in third person. Through the tunnel is a map station, but first I scan it for my first entry into the logbook's research section. I walk into the hologram for a slot for Samus's cannon to appear to download the map for the rest of this place. Nice of the space pirates to make their ship compatible with their greatest enemy's equipment. There isn't much left of this place to check out. More monitors have more recordings of what happened here. Parasites have been swarming the vents and 2 parasite queens have started kicking off on Deck Beta. Back through the tunnel, and in addition from the Wii version onward to the Morph Ball is the Spring Ball, being backported from the Prime sequels, so you no longer have to wait for a bomb to explode for a jump. Through the next door to the connection elevator to Deck Beta, I scan the switch to make a hologram appear to activate it with. After riding it down, I go into the Deck Beta conduit hall, which is a mess. The morph ball tunnel here now has electricity coming in and out in front of it that I have to time my roll through, and at the other side is the door leading to the Biotech Research Centre 1. There are more wounded space pirates in here, one with both legs broken and one with severe internal injuries, but both still clinging to life enough to try shooting me. A few shots deal with them, and since I took damage, they leave behind small energy refills, which I can scan for a logbook entry. Nearby is a whole screen showing the life cycle of the Parasite Queen, confirming that the huge dead creature in the emergency evacuation area was one of them. At the end is the door into the Deck Beta security hall. Mounted on the ceiling is an auto turret which I scanned to add to my logbook. Another power-up I start with is 15 missiles, which I use to take this out in one shot. It leaves behind missile ammo, another scannable entry to the logbook. The charge beam can also be used to draw in both health and ammo refills, which is one of my favourite additions to a returning weapon in this game. Through the door and into biohazard containment. A lot of computer monitors to scan here. The first lot are the results of testing phazon infusions on a Parasite Queen. The red squares in my scan visor are entries to the logbook also required for the 100%. This one is listed under pirate data. This log covers the space pirate team on this frigate learning of the destruction of their Zebes base from the original Metroid. This frigate Orpheon and 2 others managed to escape. They mention having Metroids as part of their cargo, which would be a problem apart from the fact I haven't seen any. So we can assume those escape pods took the Metroids with them. Another nice touch is that since they were crushed so horribly on Zebes, they always refer to Samus as the Hunter. Despite monitors saying that the Parasite Queen is stable after the phazon infusions, they must be old results because it has since died of its mutations. One switch here can be scanned to disable the auto turret further on. Along the walls are various preserved bodies of creatures native to Talon 4. Since these are dead, they can't get a thorough scan for the logbook yet. One which is closed is shown to be hiding a sidehopper from Zebes, but that artwork is all you're getting, you don't get to actually see one. I get to read the effects of phazon infusion, unnatural enlargement, acidic saliva and drastically lowered pain tolerance. Sounds worth it. At the end is a switch to activate a small lift to the second level. More preserved Talon 4 creatures and a couple more dying space pirates. Although there is a third one with only minor injuries, then one last pirate at the end whose exoskeleton joints have been welded together by acid. Past him is the Deck Beta Transit Hall, another straight corridor with some more reports along the wall, like how the ship reactor's ventilation has been blocked. Then through the door at the end into the cargo freight lift to Deck Gamma. There's another auto turret here and it gets a few shots in because I'm not used to the Switch controller layout yet after having only played the GameCube version, and my last playthrough before now being in 2014. I scan the switch to open the gate to the elevator going down to Deck Gamma. More dead pirates and a switch to activate the lock for the big door in the back. It requires insertion of the metallic ball, and the morph ball is compatible. After I take out this surprise space pirate first, I open the door to enter the reactor core entrance. A pair of auto turrets and more dead pirates, including one who had its face melted off. There's another locked door leading the morph ball, but first through the blue door to my first save station. Gotta make sure to scan it too for its logbook entry. Save stations have been upgraded from the 2D games as they now fully restore your health too. I unlock the big door to enter the reactor core. It's here we get our first boss, as the last living Parasite Queen climbs up from the depths of the core. First I make sure to get my scan in before I kill it and it's lost forever. The logbook entry claims the weak spot is the mouth and that it has been mutated through an unknown substance. Based on the reports of the last queen I saw, we can assume phazon. The Parasite Queen has 2 barriers revolving around it, but it's very easy to stay locked on and circle along the gaps while shooting. Scanning a boss grants you its health bar, and once I bring it down to 2/3 health through just spamming the basic shot, the barriers go wild while the Parasite Queen tries hitting me with a plasma breath. But while locked onto an enemy, I have a quick side jump I can use to easily dodge attacks like that. Once the barriers calm down and go back into place, I release the charge shot I've been holding, followed by a missile and more regular shots to finish it off in no time. The Parasite Queen falls into the core and is incinerated, but this makes the reactor unstable and it goes critical. I have 7 minutes to escape. The newly opened door in here leads into the Deck Gamma monitor hall. I jump up the steps and turn the corner to the next door into the connection elevator to Deck Beta. I scan the switch and step into the hologram to ride it up, then disable the auto turret in front of the door leading back into the Biotech Research Area 1, but this is the lower floor I couldn't reach before. There are more pirates, but they're killed by the explosions rocking this room. Another Parasite Queen can be seen dying in here too. I climb the wreckage back up to the earlier floor, but the doors are inaccessible. But a hole blows open allowing me to escape into subventilation shaft section A. I take the first turn I can into a tunnel filled with parasites, then come out to turn back into another with parasites piling out. Down at the bottom is the door to subventilation shaft section B. I continue to turn through more descending tunnels filled with parasites. At the end the door is damaged and won't open, until it explodes a few seconds later, giving me access to the main ventilation shaft section A. This one has me ascending while pirates drop through the ceiling until I reach the door to section B. I climb up to the next door and take out the auto turrets to power on the next door into section C. Another parasite tunnel to descend through until I reach the door at the end into section D. Back to ascending until the next door into section E. This one has a huge cylinder pump through it. I have to follow it as it retracts until I find the door into section F. This is the last section of the main ventilation shaft, and at the end is Biotech Research Area 2. Samus stops when she hears a growl and looks up to see Ridley, revived from his death in the first game through cybernetic parts. He wrecks the surrounding area and flies off. One last power-up Samus starts with, the Grapple Beam, which I use on the grapple points to swing across this water to the next door. This is the connection elevator to Deck Alpha, and I activate the hologram. But as soon as that's done, the damage Ridley caused catches up to Samus and the exploding tunnel blasts her into the lift, but damages her Varia suit, returning her to the regular base power suit. I'll just take a quick pause in the middle of this tense escape to say that I'm not a fan of this game's take on the basic power suit. I just don't like how small and flat the shoulder pads are compared to the 2D power suits, or the shape of them in general and how they slope down. My least favourite Samus suit in terms of shape, but not my least favourite overall thanks to the Fusion Varia suit's hideous colour scheme. But I didn't just lose the Varia suit, I lost everything. Missiles, Charge Beam, Morph Ball, Bombs and Grapple Beam. This is the first game to actively show Samus's power-ups being lost at the start instead of just not carrying over, and despite this only happening here and to a smaller extent in Prime 2, it managed to become something I saw made fun of and complained about a lot in the mid-2000s. Well, Fusion sort of did it too, but we never had use of them before they were lost in that game. So, despite the criticisms of how Other M handled the power-ups in its story, I believe the main motivation for the authorization system was trying to avoid setting off the "Samus trips on a rock and loses all her shit again" joke. Of course, that brought in a lot of other criticisms, but that's not relevant to this game. The elevator leads to the Deck Alpha mech shaft, which leads back out to the airlock. I once again have to wait for depressurization before one last run through the main docking bay, and I'm safe. Samus sees Ridley flying away and gets on her gunship to follow him down to Talon 4. Metroid Prime does take a lot of inspiration from Super Metroid, from the returning power-ups it contains, to an opening on a space station filled with corpses that ends with it exploding and following Ridley to the planet the rest of the game will take place on. I have sometimes seen a supposed lack of originality used as a criticism, but I don't have an issue with this, as since the game is a different genre, the gameplay experience is completely different. Plus, it's not like it was ever close to one-to-one with Super anyway. Samus loses her tracking on Ridley and has to land on the ground. Welcome to the rest of the game, starting with the Talon Otherworld. Samus's gunship can be used as a save station that also refills all weapon ammo, if I had any anymore, just like it did in previous games. All three main Prime games, that are out right now as Prime 4 was only just properly shown off less than 2 weeks ago as I write this, contain an arrangement of an older Metroid track or two. And the Talon Otherworld's theme is an arrangement of the original Brinstar theme from the first Metroid. It's a good one, not my favourite of the remixes, but between all three games, there's only one of them that I don't like, and it isn't in this game anyway. First thing I do is jump down from Samus's gunship and scan it to add it to the logbook. The landing site contains quite a few doors, but most of them I can't reach right now, so I just start with the low down one to the right of the ship. This puts me in the canyon cavern where out from the ground burst beetles, which I make sure to scan. All I can do now is spam the basic cannon shot, but they only take a few shots to kill. I take the door off to the side into the Talon Canyon. Right away I scan a sap sack for the logbook. These are volatile and will explode after taking a few shots, damaging myself if I'm too close. I move around where I can see another door off to the side, but first I scan these mushrooms to add blast cap to the logbook. These also explode when shot enough, but can also drop refills when destroyed. Rather than go for the door, I get climbing these rock platforms off to the left. It's here we get a returning classic Metroid enemy and dealing with an old localization choice. Western manuals of the first game used to call the Jima enemy Zuma before swapping back to Jima for Super Metroid. This game reconciles that by having Zumas be the basic version that moves along platforms as always, and further up is a red, spikier, more armoured variant which is given the name Jima. These differing subspecies only apply to this one game, and in the 2D games and Other M that they appear in, they are all just called Jima again. I scan both of them. At the top of these platforms I follow the path across a bridge and reach another blue door. This one I go through to the root tunnel. I scan the bloodflower here, a plant that spits toxic spores when approached. Also the grass here can be added to the logbook. Tangleweed will recede into the ground when shot, otherwise it will slow your movement when trying to walk through it. My regular beam can't damage the bloodflower, so I run past it to see a door with a metal plate on it. These need scanning for the logbook too. The blast shield can only be destroyed with a missile, and I've lost those. Doors needing missiles used to be red, but the multicoloured doors requiring different weapons to open do return. It's just that missiles don't get a colour anymore. Back out into the Talon Canyon and I drop down to go for the other door I saw earlier, but first a beetle drops a large red energy refill, so I have to scan that. I can also scan this half-pipe looking section for Samus to note how smooth its surface is. Through the door is Transport Tunnel A. A few steps further is the next door leading to Transport to Chozo Ruins West. I scan the switch to activate the lift and ride it up. And we've already discovered the second region of Talon 4, the Chozo Ruins. I'm dropped off in the transport to Talon Otherworld North and go through the door in front of me to the ruins entrance. My suit picks up a report of abnormal seismic activity at the ruin site and points me to the hive totem on the map. But it doesn't fill in the rest of the map leading to it. I have to work that part out myself. I can inspect the pillars to find that they are eroding from age and that they are so old Samus can't even work out their age. Further forward is a door, but there's this weird watery window thing. These, when scanned, turn out to be Chozo lore. It says that the Chozo species is so old and have spread so far that they no longer know their own place of origin. The Chozo that settled here on Talon 4 decided not to base their civilization on advanced technology like those on Zebus who raised Samus did, but instead chose to live with nature, hoping to live a peaceful life and leave their words behind, meaning more lore for me to find. Under the lore is a door to the main plaza. I get a panning shot of this area, including a teasing view of a missile expansion I can't reach yet. I drop down the steps and get ambushed by a group of beetles. There's a door to the left, but this one also has a blast shield. I walk through another half pipe and climb some steps. Up here there's another door to the left. This one leads to another tunnel filled with scarabs, the nursery access. I scan the scarabs, which behave like the swarms of parasites on Frigate Orpheon. When they all drop, they're good for killing for refills. At the end is the door to the Ion tunnel. Ion referring to these eyes on the wall that I scan. They fire a laser when you get close to them. All I can do right now is shoot them to have them temporarily close their eyes so I can pass them safely. It's a straightforward corridor to the door at the end leading into the ruined nursery. First thing I see is more Chozo lore on the wall. This one's a lot of rambling about time and the universe until a few Chozo have started to sense things out of the ordinary and having visions, leading them to think that their harmonisation with nature is soon complete and they will know all of the universe's secrets. There's a small morph ball tunnel in the wall, but I can't do anything about that yet. I get climbing towards this blue door and turn to see a wasp I scan. The war wasps can be irritating pests, diving at me, but are easily killed. Above them I also scan the war wasp hive. Destroying them prevents more from being spawned. But I lack any kind of heavy weapon needed to destroy them. I leave the door here for now and climb a little higher for the next door, leading to Chozo Ruins as Save Station 1. Then I go through the door I skipped into the North Atrium. Another tunnel with holes in the ceiling filled with scarabs and a load of Chozo decorations along the walls. At the end is the door into the ruined gallery. There's a door directly opposite from where I enter, but if I drop down I can see a tunnel for when I get the morph ball back. There's also a door hidden underneath the one I entered through, but it has a blast shield. There's a weak wall made of brimstone on the other side, but I have nothing to destroy it with yet. My only option is to cross the platforms to the other side and go through the door there into the totem access. It's a dark tunnel with the only light source being these plasmites, another one for the logbook. I can kill them, but it darkens the room, not that it matters much. At the end of the tunnel is a crate with a large energy and another tunnel that takes me to the hive totem. I can see an item across the bridge, but when I climb the steps in the middle to reach the bridge, it lowers and the item fucks off into this machine. The room then floods with acid water to further keep me away from the item. This leads to my first mini-boss fight against the hive mecha, which I scan. It spawns these ram war wasps, which I also scan, who circle me for a bit before they try to do as their name implies. I shoot them down and when they're all gone, the hive mecha opens up to spawn more, giving me the chance to shoot its open port for some damage. Deal enough and it rotates to another side and starts again, spewing out more ram war wasps. Wipe them out and shoot again when it opens up. It's an easy boss. Do this for all the ports and the hive mecha breaks down, the acidic water drains away, the item is lowered back down and the bridge is raised again. I claim my reward and I once again have a missile launcher. I only start with the usual 5 instead of the 15 I had on the frigate though. And to test it out there's a door with a blast shield right in front of me. Instead of 5 missiles like previous games, it just takes 1 to open one of these. The door leads into Transport Access North and I'm also given my first energy tank, an extra 100 to my maximum health. I shoot for nearby crates to spawn some missile ammunition, another item needing a scan for the logbook. I'm at a dead end though, as the only way forward is a morph ball tunnel, so I'm going back the way I came. Checking the pause menu shows that although I have only 2% item collection, I've already filled in 20% of the logbook. The journey back isn't completely uneventful though, as the missile launcher gets me access to some places. Back in the ruined gallery, I shoot down the brimstone wall with the missile to get my first missile expansion. I also shut off a blast shield on the door on the other end to get access to the Chozo Ruins map station and get that filled in. It doesn't fill in the entire map though, so as to leave some secrets. All the way back to the main plaza and I blow the blast shield off of that first door I found to the side of the entrance. This gets me into the ruined shrine access. Another straightforward tunnel filled with scarabs until the door at the end takes me to the ruined shrine. I hop up this step, over a half pipe and can see another familiar item. But when I drop down, a wall rises up in front of it and I get an even minier mini-boss. First I take out a wave of beetles, and once they're done, a bigger, more armoured one pops out of the ground. I scan the plated beetle, but I don't need the logbook to tell me that its weak spot is its giant glowing red baboon ass. So I keep dashing around it and a couple missiles blow its ass clean off and kill it. The wall lowers again and I can finally get back my Morph Ball. I'm even happier to get this back than the missiles. Not having access to the Morph Ball feels wrong. It's like the earliest moments of a Zelda game before I have the sword. I feel naked without it. This is also the game that established that Samus's body is converted into energy when in the Morph Ball. She isn't actually being contorted into a spine-destroying ball like many of us joked about before. Retrieving the Morph Ball also has the Chozo Ruins' true theme music start playing. There's a breakable sandstone wall in this arena, but the Morph Ball didn't come with the bombs. I still have to track those down elsewhere. But there is a tunnel here leading back to the door I entered from. Back to the main plaza, it's time to climb even higher. If I look up and to the right, I can see another energy tank far out of my reach. I get climbing some more, crossing a pair of tree bridges to find another blue door into the ruined fountain access. Another tunnel, but thanks to some tree roots I couldn't get to the other end before without the Morph Ball. Then through the door at the end into the ruined fountain. Most of this room is acidic water, but my scan visor can reach the Chozo lore opposite the door I entered from. It talks of a massive amount of negative energy emerging after the planet was hit by a meteor. The Chozo have been infected with something they call the Great Poison, and all attempts to purify themselves have failed. So all they can do is wait for a method to present itself. It can't be fully contained either, as the poison has spread into the planet and hardened. I jump across to the fountain spewing toxic water and turn to jump over to this next door. This leads to the Arboretum access. Hanging from the ceiling are the Shriek Bats I scan. They are similar to the Screech from the 2D games. Once they see you, they dive bomb you, dying on contact unless you kill them first. At the end of the tunnel is a door with a blast shield leading into the Arboretum. It's a huge vertical room built around this giant tree in the middle. To the left is a tentacle coming out of the wall. I scan it to gain the Reaper Vine's entry. It can't be killed, but shooting it in the ball will have it retreat into the wall. I hop across the platforms until I see another door with a blast shield. I blow it open and cross the bridge to it to leave the rest of this room for now as I move into the Gathering Hall access. There are many little visual effects that can end up on Samus's visor that I won't bring up all of, but the pipe steaming up her visor is one of the more obvious ones. Another memorable one is certain explosions causing her face to be reflected in the visor. Through this narrow tunnel and out into the Gathering Hall. To the right and up the slope, through the blast shield door, is the Chozo Ruins' save station too. Always an annoying save station if you reload and forget that there are always Shriek Bats ready to jump you whenever you leave. There's a door further up, but first I'm going through this one opposite the save station. This leads into the Watery Hall access, a tunnel with this little watery section halfway through. There's a brimstone wall here I can shatter for my next missile expansion, getting myself back to the amount I started the game with. At the end of the tunnel is another blast shield to get rid of so I can enter the Watery Hall. As I jump forward and turn back towards a door, there's a symbol on a circular tile. Scanning it will have it light up. I next get climbing the platforms and look down to see a big group of blast caps. Blowing them up will reveal another tile with a symbol to scan. I continue to climb and follow the platforms to this gate covered in 4 symbols, with the 2 I've already scanned lit up here too. The third one is on the wall right next to the gate, and the fourth one is below the gate. With all 4 lit, a 5th symbol appears in the middle of the gate and I can scan that to open it. I can see another item, but first there's more Chozo lore behind it. This one recaps a meteor striking Talon 4 that I heard about in the previous Chozo lore I read, but it confirms that the Great Poison appeared right after the meteor hit. I grab the item, which turns out to be my Charge Beam. Glad to have that back, the ability to draw in refills is so convenient. Grabbing it activates some ions, which lets me know that the Charge Beam can destroy them. There's also a Morph Ball tunnel needing the bomb to enter here, something to come back for later. I backtrack to the Gathering Hall to save, and now I can get climbing. Climb all the platforms to this tunnel leading me in view of a door. Jump the gap and go through the door into the East Atrium. Another tunnel with a wrecked middle section with Shriek Bats at the other end. The door at the end leads to the Energy Core access. Since I lack the bombs, I can't use the tunnel and have to take the tougher route on top with the ions. At the end and through the door is the Energy Core. There's a locked door out of my reach above the pool of acidic water. I can scan said lock for my logbook. This one cannot be opened through any weapon. That's 25% of the logbook completed. I've been getting a few notifications of unlocked gallery content, mainly for collecting items, but I haven't felt the need to point them all out. I go through the tunnel to the left of the entrance and follow it to this Morph Ball tunnel. But first I turn right to see this thing, a stone toad. I scan it for the logbook but can't do anything else with it for now. I roll through the tunnel into the Burn Dome access and then through another to reach the door to the Burn Dome. There's a massive Warwasp hive right above me, and out from the ground comes my next mini-boss, the Incinerator Drone. I scan it right away. It holds out 2 flamethrowers and spins in place with them. I just have to not let the flames touch me. After a while, its weak point will rise from the top and give me the chance to shoot it. Doing so with a missile knocks the flamethrower so it sets the hive on fire. This angers the residents, the new Barbed Warwasp, which I scan before anything else. Even when the drone corrects itself, the flamethrower angles are off, so I can jump over one and roll under the other. The rest of the fight is nothing special. I've always felt that this boss theme shared between the Hive Mecha and Incinerator Drone was way too, for lack of a better word, epic for these two fights. It's more memorable than some of the themes of the actual main bosses. 4 missiles to knock off the drone's aim and the hive is destroyed, the drone exploding afterwards too. It leaves behind an item and I have regained my bombs. The door I entered through unlocks, but there's a tunnel-like bomb opening in this room. Through it is another missile expansion, getting my maximum to 20. Back into the burn dome access, I curl up and let the stone toad inhale me. I then use the bomb while inside to blow it up. Inside is a device connected to a slot in the wall for the morph ball. I scan said slot because it has an entry in the logbook. I get inside the slot and lay a bomb to activate the device. It drains the water in the energy core to reveal another slot. Then there's a hole in the wall I can use here to drop down right near it. I get in that slot and activate it to raise these platforms from the floor. I cross the platforms to this tunnel that leads up and around to a third slot. This raises 2 more platforms leading to that locked door that then unlocks itself. I climb to that door and go through to the west furnace access. A very short tunnel leading to the door to the furnace. There's a track going up the wall that I can't use yet and a morph ball tunnel that I can. It looks to lead to a maze, but everything interesting is at where the track leads. I just roll along to the other side and out into this small room for my second energy tank. This is a dead end for now with my current equipment, so it's time to head back. I can at least take the easy way back through the energy core access now. Back into the Arboretum. I climb back up to the bridge attached to the tree and find another symbol to scan and activate. I continue the climb a little and scan a second symbol on this far wall. Next is a small tunnel I need to bomb through, and in front of the next tunnel I look up to find another symbol on a tree. There's a new kind of grass in the next tunnel to scan, Venom Weed. This one will damage me if I try to roll through without shooting it into the ground first. Through that tunnel and some more climbing to find the gate for symbols unlock and realise I missed one all the way down at the bottom. It's here under some Venom Weed when looking to the right from the first door I entered here from. The gate opens and I can climb all the way back up to bomb my way into this tunnel. Through that is a door with a blast shield leading into the Sun Chamber lobby. A short tunnel filled with Venom Weed and Reaper Vines until I reach the next door leading into the Sun Chamber access. More Reaper Vines and Venom Weed before I can climb the steps to the door leading into the Sun Chamber. There's a huge plant in here that blocks off my exit. This huge mirror on the ceiling flips down to reflect sunlight onto the plant so that it opens up to reveal the first proper boss on this planet, Flagra. First I scan this tentacle of Flagra's blocking the tunnel leading to it. The scan says that the tunnel leads to Flagra's nervous system. I then scan Flagra itself while it spits acid at me. The scan states that Flagra is the source of all the toxic water in the Chozo ruins. It also states that it needs to be constantly exposed to solar energy to keep its current form. So I get behind the mirror and keep shooting at it to knock its aim off Flagra. Flagra passes out and the tentacle blocking the tunnel disappears. I roll in and bomb the slot to make Flagra burst into flames. It shrinks away, but then 2 mirrors aim down at it to make it grow again. 2 mirrors on opposite ends of the arena. Flagra can also try and slam you while making a barrier across the arena. You have to be quick with these mirrors, as if you take too long, Flagra can smack one of the ones you shot up back down. While your cannon can't damage Flagra, enough shots will stun it for a while. I make it faint again and set it on fire again. And as you might expect, next time 3 mirrors start facing Flagra. The new attack it shows off this phase is swiping at me. 3 mirrors isn't much harder than 2, just have to be quick and keep shooting at it for that stun. I like to keep my lock on Flagra and just aim myself under the mirrors so I don't waste time changing targets while still hitting what I want. Another bombing, and for the last phase, all 4 mirrors get involved. At this point there's nothing left to say. If you can handle 3 mirrors, you can handle 4 mirrors. One last bombing and Flagra is done. It sinks back into the flower for good, and said flower starts expelling purified water throughout the ruins, getting rid of that hazard for good. An item appears in front of the exit. I finally regained the Varia suit so I don't look off anymore. I've always liked the Varia suit. The huge shoulders always made it look much more impressive. I couldn't tell you which version of the Varia suit is my favourite, my mind always changes. It's never the one from Fusion though. I have a 10% reduction in damage and can now move in areas of extreme heat without melting. The door I entered through is inaccessible, so I have to take the opposite door into the Sun Tower access. To show that the water is purified, I have to jump into it to reach the other end of the room. Thing is, I'm not only slowed down in water, but my vision is hugely impaired too. Once I'm out of the water and move on, destroying these crates gets me an ultra energy to scan, 100 health refill. Further on is this enemy type that does my head in. Pulse Bombu floats above the tunnel dropping explosive bursts of energy. Right now, I can't kill them. I ignore it and go through the door into the Sun Tower. As I drop down here, I spot another of those tracks I can't use before something bumps me off and leaves me unable to go back up for a long while. The wall in this room has something made of cordite, a breakable material I'll have to remember for later when I'm able to break it. There's some more Chozo lore on the wall. It continues to explain the effects of the Great Poison as it seeps further into Tallon 4. The peaceful animals are dying off, while those that remain are twisted into more violent, aggressive versions of themselves. It seems that Flagra has been here a while, as the lore mentions it, while I don't see any remaining Chozo around here. There's another gate with 4 symbols on the track. No point doing anything about it now since I can't climb it. Further up is the unseen enemy that knocked me down, Oculus. With that I go through the door down here into the transport to Magmoor Caverns North. There's 2 other doors in here and I take the opposite one of where I entered from. It leads back into Transport Access North where there's a tunnel for my Morph Ball. But it just leads back to the room I found my first energy tank, so I turn back. This time I take the other door between them into the Vault Access. There's a lift to my Morph Ball that leads to a tunnel that leads to another tunnel that leads to a door to the vault. I can see a missile expansion in the middle of the room, but it's walled in. First there's more Chozo lore on the wall. It's some Chozo bringing about their species' will, basically saying that no matter what happens, they'll find a way to keep going. One of the walls keeping me from the missile expansion has 3 bomb slots on it, so I just have to get in and bomb them all, the last one requiring some bomb jump timing. The walls piss off and my missile maximum is now 25. I go through the other door here into the Plaza Access. Nothing interesting, and the door at the end takes me back to the main plaza where I can finally grab that third energy tank I saw earlier. With the water clean and some new weapons, I have a few more items I can grab. I return to the ruined nursery to deal with that little maze in the wall. With the bombs I can now get through the maze and reach my next missile expansion at the end. The ruined gallery is the next room I'm revisiting. I can get inside the tunnel below the entrance and to the right to find my 7th set of missiles inside. Back through the Hive Totem and into Transport Access North to go through the tunnel filled with little lifts to end up back at the transport to Magmoor Caverns North. This time I activate the elevator and take it down. Now in Magmoor Caverns I go through the only available door into the Burning Trail. I drop down the lifts to the bottom and go through the tunnel there. Halfway along this tunnel is a door with a blast shield leading into Save Station Magmoor A. Back out and I go straight ahead for the rest of the tunnel. I can see a door, but first I have to scan this Grisby. I prefer to ignore these since it takes missiles to kill them and it doesn't feel worth it. Through the door into the lake tunnel. Here I have to cross a few platforms floating in lava with flames coming out of the walls. At this point, if I didn't have the Varia suit, just being in this room would have me taking constant damage. Past the lava we have another new enemy to scan. The Burrower does as the name implies, trying to damage me by popping out of the ground at me. Past it is the door into the lava lake. It's here we get the establishing camera sweep for this region and the full version of Magmoor Caverns theme starts playing, which turns out to be a remix of the Lower Norfair theme from Super Metroid. Right away a new enemy emerges from the lava and I scan it. This is a Magmoor. They'll breathe fire at me, but enough shots will blow its head off. There's a grapple point here, but the grapple beam is the only item lost on the frigate Orpheon that I haven't regained yet. Instead I have to jump across these platforms with puffers floating over them, which I scan. They look pretty much identical to the bull enemies from Super Metroid, but they're completely different. They emit a poison gas and destroying them will leave a toxic cloud that lingers for a few seconds. Across the platforms is a tunnel to bomb open. More puffers to blow up and platforms to cross to reach a door leading into the pit tunnel. The way forward is blocked except for rolling under this grated floor. Down here is a Triclops to scan. These are a slight annoyance, as rolling near one will have it catch you in its jaws and spit you back out the way you came, but baiting them into grabbing a bomb will kill them. I make it out the other side and through the door into the Triclops pit. As I enter the huge main area, there's a door to the left and to the right. I drop down in front of where I came from and turn around to find a cave with a tunnel leading to underneath the grated floor. I go clockwise around this place, dealing with more Triclopses until I find another tunnel leading to the right hand door leading to the storage cavern. It's a very small room containing my next missile expansion. Back to the Triclops pit and the spot I started at, I aim for the door to the left next. I climb the platforms while dealing with puffers until I reach the door to the monitor tunnel. More puffers and a couple rising and lowering platforms to get past. The door past them leads into the monitor station. This is a big room with 3 more doors, but one of them is out of reach at the moment. This place caused a lot of deaths when I was a teenager. First I jump towards the station and have to deal with the auto turret set up here. Through the station and jump across the platforms to the other side so I can start climbing. Another turret to take care of while I make my way around and jump onto the catwalk leading inside the station. From there I can cross a bridge to another door leading into Transport Tunnel A. Once again there are 2 levels to this small tunnel, but this time I can go along the top by bomb jumping at the start. Don't blow up the block you're on or you're landing in lava. Once I get on top I can roll along to another wall I need to bomb my way up, leading to one more bomb jump to reach my 4th energy tank. Thankfully collecting an energy tank is a full heal to undo all that lava damage. Along the bottom of the tunnel and through the door leading to a transport to Phendrana Drifts North. I activate the lift and take it. I reach Phendrana Drifts, which is covered in snow and ice, and go through the door to the shoreline entrance. There are ice walls to missile through before I reach the next door out onto the Phendrana shorelines. Here we can get a better look at the place. Most people tend to feel that Phendrana Drifts has one of the best new area themes in the game. I agree with most people. First I head forward to scan this new enemy, the Crystallite, basically an ice Gema. I head into the tunnel directly opposite of where I started from to find the door to Save Station B. I can scan the monitors here to find out that a research lab Hydra has gone into lockdown, along with the Western Temple. Back out onto the shorelines I scan these flying creatures to add flicker back to my logbook. Moving right I scan a grate to find that it's brittle. I missile it open and morph ball through the snow to find a switch that unlocks the door directly above me. I move the other way and can now climb the cliffs going above the save station. They lead to the door I unlocked, leading into the Ice Ruins access. I have another Bombu to scan in here, Scatter Bombu. These appear in these tunnels and have 3 rotating tendrils coming out. I prefer to morph ball around them. At the end is the door into Ice Ruins East. As I turn the corner I scan the sleeping baby Sheegoth, probably the toughest enemy so far with my current equipment. Unharmed when shot on the front, only the icy shell can be damaged and it takes a lot of punishment. When not ramming into me they'll spit ice. After enough hits the shell will break and I can shoot their soft exposed back to finish it off. Once I take them both out I get climbing and go along the roofs of the ruins. They take me all around the room and to the door leading into the plaza walkway. Another tunnel with the creatively named Ice Burrower that I make sure to scan. I run through to the next door and end up back on the Phendrana shorelines, but higher up. I go up the slope to the left and through the door here into the ruins entryway. This place is filled with pulse bombus. Do not use the charge beam near them or it will pull them all into you. I go through the opposite door and end up in Ice Ruins West. More baby Sheegoths and the bane of completionists back in the GameCube days, these Ice Shriek Bats. In a few versions of the game, these enemies will just disappear for no reason when you grab a certain item, making their logbook entry missable. And since it's easy to set them off and have them explode before you finish the scan, it can be a bit frustrating. Apparently it was fixed by the PAL GameCube version, but I've still never taken that risk and made sure to scan them as early as possible. After dealing with the baby Sheegoths, I enter the ruins just right of where I entered from. There's some Chozo lore in here. The Chozo really aren't taking that great poison well, so they try to build a temple to contain it, closed by a lock powered by 12 artifacts. But they do wonder if this will be enough, whether the damage is already done, or the temple is useless and the poison can continue to spread. In the back left of this room is a new purple door that I can't open yet, so instead I turn right and go slightly downhill to this blue door with a blast shield. This one leads into the canyon entryway where more scatter bombus are waiting. Through the next door into Phendrana Canyon. First I drop down to the platform directly below to find more Chozo lore in the wall. They believe that despite everyone else on this planet being born from the Great Poison, a saviour will at least come for them someday. All of the equipment I've been finding were left behind by the Chozo, which explains how Samus is finding the same equipment she found on Zebus and why it's compatible with her suit. I turn around and drop into the huge half-pipe below, but I can't reach the platforms, so I have to go up this nearby slope and scan a switch to realign them so that they lead to this building in the back. I make my way across and grab my next new power-up. This one is new to the series, the Boost Ball. Much less frustrating to obtain here than it is in the sequel. The Boost Ball lets me charge up and boost the Morph Ball forward, so now I can finally put all those half-pipes I've been walking past to use. Starting with this one. I build up the momentum to launch onto this cliff that leads me back to the door I just came through. And now I've hit another dead end, so it's time to see what my new acquisition can get me in some old places. When I return to the shorelines, Ridley flies by, but I can only see his big shadow on the floor at first. Some would say too big, but he got in Smash anyway, so we won in the end. And continuing the way I came, back to Magmoor Caverns West. Back at the power station there's a blue door just outside of the station itself, left of the door I entered here from first time. It leads into the Shaw Tunnel. There's a glass tube tunnel which, if you're remembering these Super Metroid inspirations, you'll know what to do with later. At the other end and through the next door into the fiery shores. Dickhead flamethrowers built into the ceiling send me crashing down into lava when I try to cross. Then a more open space with grapple points to remember for later. Right now all I can do is avoid this Triclops and get into the tunnel. Out the other end is another small space to roll into, leading up into a catwalk with no rails that I have to very carefully roll along. I fall the first time, but on the second I reach the missile expansion at the end. I return to the start of that little tunnel and keep moving to find the door at the end that leads into Transport Tunnel B. I have a small tunnel to squeeze through as a ball to reach the door at the end that takes me to a new lift, Transport Talonova World West. There's another door here but no point in going through yet, so I activate the lift and take it up. In this new section of the Talonova world I go through the door into Transport Tunnel B. This bridge with steam or smoke rising from below looks dangerous to fall off of, but it's perfectly safe. There's another missile expansion underneath for a maximum of 50. Crossing the bridge and going through the door takes me to the Root Cave. It's a tall room and I'm starting at the bottom. According to the map, there's a red door at the top. I can't open that yet, so I just climb up this slope and cross a bridge, stopping when I reach the first door I see, with a blast shield, and going through. It leads me back into the root tunnel, that blast shield I destroyed having been the first one I ever found at the start. I go back into the Talon Canyon to use that half pipe I pointed out first time through. I boost up to the left and follow the path to find a bombable wall. Behind it is even more wall to bomb, leading out to one more door for this room leading into the gully. Another simple, quick path and the next door puts me back at the landing site, just higher up than I can reach from below. I follow the cliff up here to another door to the alcove. There's another item for me in here. It's the space jump boots. If you played any of the previous 3 games, you might get expectations a bit too high when you read the word space jump. It happened to me. But this is not infinite jumps like in those, but a double jump. Still very useful though, and opens up even more new stuff for me. I exit back to the landing site, and behind the gunship is a small tunnel I can now roll into for my 11th set of missiles. I get to put my new double jump to use right away. Left from the ship is a gap I can now cross to another door. This leads to the temple hall. I scan the enemies on the ceiling to gain the seedling entry. They grow little needles that they then shoot out at me. I cross to the next door to enter the temple security station, where we learn that we are right above the impact crater. Based on the Chozo lore so far, we can work out that this is where the meteor that brought the Great Poison hit. There's a hologram I can scan in here for some more pirate data. They've been studying this place and found it has a containment field that prevents access to a huge energy source in the crater. This place is then clearly the temple the previous Chozo lore said would be built to contain the Great Poison when it's mentioned to be powered by Chozo artifacts. The pirates have already found some of the artifacts and have started studying them. So the pirates want to get at the Great Poison so they can use it as a power source. I keep moving and blow up the blast shield to enter the temple lobby, then through the next door to reach the artifact temple. I turn left and right away find more Chozo lore on the wall. It just confirms what I already know at this point, about the temple being built to contain the poison and being locked by 12 artifacts. They have been spread across the planet to prevent the seal from being easily broken. I move further along the corridor until I end up outside. In the middle, underneath this statue, is an item I collect. Well, they didn't try very hard at hiding this one because it's the first of the Chozo artifacts. This is the Artifact of Truth. I'm told all 12 will open up the impact crater and to scan the totems around here for hints towards the other locations. Some, but not all of the statues, then display a hologram with the information. One requires collapsing a tower in Phendrana Drifts above the pirate fortress. One is found through the waters in a tower in the ruins where light always shines. A statue honouring the Chozo elders in a hall in the ruins hides an artifact below it. One pretty much just says that an artifact is in the sun chamber where I fought Flagra. But I can't get back there with one door locked now and another at the top of the track. One can be found at a shrine in Magmor Caverns. One is hidden in a pillar in a grove in a far corner of Talon Otherworld. One is hidden in a tall cave at the edge of Phendrana. The remaining 4 it's not telling me anything about. Back towards where I entered from, I go right for more Chozo lore. In this entry they start to have premonitions of Samus dealing with the Great Poison. Back to the Talon Otherworld and all the way back to the Magmor Caverns East elevator I came from and taking it back to Magmor. And then it's back to the elevator to take me back to Phendrana Drifts. This whole detour after getting the boost ball was just to get the space jump boots. At the shorelines, with the double jump I can get on this platform near the save station, take a long jump to another platform and then onto the ruins of this building. There's more cordite I can't break here and I go through the door into the temple entryway. Another tunnel with breakable ice and bamboos before I reach the door to the Chozo Ice Temple. Right in front of me I can see a big Chozo statue holding a platform. A baby Sheegoth comes out of the ground, but I'm more interested in scanning this ice parasite on one of the platforms. I get climbing up them, across the Chozo statue and behind a frozen waterfall until I reach the top of said waterfall. Up here are the busts of Chozos in various roles. All are still in perfect condition except for one to the right which is damaged and made of brimstone. So I missile it to reveal a bomb slot. Bombing it opens a gate keeping me from the door at the end of this room. There's another statue at the end that looks like it froze while drooling, and the door is next to it. Through it is the chapel tunnel. It's a ball tunnel where I have to blow up chunks of the pillars to make a clean path through to the other end, where the door to the Chapel of the Elders is. There's an item in the back, and this one is a real tease. It waits until I'm just about to touch it before it sinks into the ground and puts me in a mini boss fight. First I have to fight 2 baby Sheegoths. As I kill them, more come up from below. Once I kill 4 of them, a wall is smashed open to reveal a fully grown Sheegoth. I scan it to be told that most beam weapons don't affect it, as the crystals on their back absorb energy, which they can then charge and fire back at me. They can ram into me like they're children and also breathe ice at me. They also keep the baby's icicle spit too. Whenever they spit at me, I shoot a missile at their jaw for a bit of damage. I just keep that up and eventually it goes down. The item returns, but first, the Sheegoth left behind a large missile refill that I can scan for the logbook. I grab the item, which turns out to be the Wave Beam. Unlike the last two games where the beams would stack, I can only have one selected at a time. The wave beam has electrical properties and can shoot through certain surfaces. It takes me a bit to get used to the new beam switching controls, since I'm just used to using the GameCubes. The other use for the wave beam is for opening purple doors. I head back, and there are now pulse bamboos in the Ice Temple. However, the wave beam can destroy them after enough shots. Back to the shorelines, and with the space jump I can skip the Ice Ruins east and use the platform to head towards the Ice Ruins west much faster. Back in there's this hanging rock in the ice ceiling that I can scan for the logbook. In the ruins where I found the Chozo lore, I can climb up with the space jump for a better view, where I can shoot it down with a missile. This creates a platform I can climb up onto the roof of more ruins. I keep double jumping across the roof to reach the purple door I pointed out earlier, leading into the courtyard entryway. Scarabs and the pulse bamboo fill up this path to the door leading to the ruined courtyard. Hopping across the ice platforms after the first two is a ball slot. Rather than the bombs, I need to boost in this one. Boosting enough will have these hatches at the top open. Then across the rest of the platforms to another spinner. This one opens more hatches and activates a bomb slot further up. Climb up a little more to reach it and bomb it to have all the hatches start pouring out water and flood the room. The ice platforms rise up with the water level. I jump across the host of this glowing tunnel and roll inside to find my 5th energy tank. The hole in here then drops me down to the bottom while the water drains. So I flood the room again and this time keep climbing the central tower. There's a purple door and a door with no power up here, but first I take the blue door with the blast shield to reach save station A. I'm going to need it for what's coming up. One of the monitors in here says that the purple door leads to Research Lab Hydra, so once I've saved and I'm back out, I go through that door into specimen storage. I lose a chunk of health to this space pirate running around the corner while trying to scan it and targeting things in the back instead. This one is a shadow pirate that can become slightly invisible for a bit, but they have no guns, having to rely on melee weapons to fight. That entry got me to 50% of the logbook filled in. You get to see the electrical effects of the wave beam when you kill an enemy, as it still pulses over their body for a bit when they're dying, as opposed to the regular power beam which is more like concussive force. I probably should have gone back to the save station after losing that much health, but I'm a bit impatient and keep moving into the next room, the research entrance. A drone floats down from the ceiling and sets off an alarm when it sees Samus, resulting in the doors being locked. A group of space pirates also come storming in. These are just the regular basic space pirates, and I can scan them for the logbook now, as the ones on the frigate Orpheon didn't count. Apparently Samus or her suit don't consider the injured and disabled worthy of documenting. They have the melee weapon of the Shadow Pirate and the cannon that the injured ones on the frigate had. A couple fully charged wave beams deal with them, the charge shot tending to stun them long enough for me to charge a second. Take them all out and the doors unlock. First the blue door in the bottom corner leading to the map station, so I get that filled in. The monitors here talk more about that Phazon stuff that was mentioned on monitors on the frigate. Phazon ore is very durable, so the pirates have been experimenting with making armour out of it. Phazon ore binds through Phazon energy, which is very radioactive. There's also Project Titan, a specimen locked away in the quarantine cave that the pirates want to move due to its violent temper. Back into the research entrance and up the slopes and catwalks to a purple door at the top into the Hydra Lab entryway. A corridor filled with scatter bamboos leading to a door into Research Lab Hydra. I scan the switch to gain access and shut off this force field, which just alerts every space pirate in the room. So I deal with them and scanning all these monitors down here. One of them contains pirate data for the logbook. The pirates have been experimenting on indigenous parasites by exposing them to Phazon. The results were increased size, strength and aggression along with mutations. Sound familiar? The pirates are hoping to create minions with the properties to survive on any planet they can transport them to. However, every subject that received a 4th Phazon infusion died, while those that received 3 were so violent and uncontrollable they had to be put down. Despite that, the pirates hope to get some usable results with Phazon infusion. Phazon fluid is being used to bathe the subjects, even as it turns out to be highly acidic. And that monitor up there has a worrying image. There's 2 more bits of pirate data on the opposite side of the room. This is the log that covers them discovering Phazon and working out that it came from a meteor that hit the planet, confirming that Phazon is the great poison the Chozo were struggling with. The second one covers the beginning of the operation to mine Phazon from the depths of the planet. However, several pirates have been driven mad by exposure to Phazon during the mining. So despite knowing it was an unstable substance, they started injecting it into everything they could get their hands on anyway. Turning around, I find one more piece of pirate data. Despite their increased security measures, creatures are still finding a way to get into the lab undetected. I then take a lift up here to the catwalks above. There was this one space pirate just patiently waiting for me to be done reading before dropping down to fight me, and then some more further up. I was wondering why the space pirate fight music was still playing, but my last playthrough prior to this one was 9 years earlier, so I couldn't remember if that's just how it was or if it was a glitch or just a quirk in this remaster. I make it to the top having killed all the pirates in the room and find more pirate lore up top. Here we get confirmation that the pirates have Metroids here. They were specifically moved here due to the Metroid's weakness to freezing temperatures, to keep them easy to deal with, even the ones with Phazon injected into them. Even then, they keep losing personnel to Metroids who've breached containment or otherwise still manage to fight back. There's a case near one of the monitors made of cordite, and nearby a purple door in the ceiling, letting me jump into the observatory access. Just a few auto turrets between me and the next purple door into the observatory. I start at the bottom of another tall room and have to clear out all the space pirates first. Once they're all dead, a switch at a nearby computer becomes scannable. But first, there's more pirate data next to it. It seems the pirates came across Phazon by chance. They just happened to pick up massive energy readings from Talon 4. They found out it was unstable right away, but still decided to start putting it in shit. There's another one nearby. This one just covers them setting up all their mining operations and research labs. Scanning the switch turns on a nearby bomb slot. I jump up to it and bomb it. This turns on another slot slightly higher in the opposite end of the room. So I go over and bomb that. The hologram device in the middle rises and activates a set of spinners at its base. I have to boost in all 4 spinners to lower a section of the outer fence. Once all 4 are down, the holograms can activate, giving a look at the system this planet is in. The machinery also holds a new item at the top of the room. But first I have some planets to scan. Planet Billiam is never mentioned again past this room. But one that's important enough to get a logbook entry is Planet Zebus. I was one of those who thought it was pronounced Zebes for 13 years until Other M had characters say its name with voice acting. You know, I never got getting angry and defensive when a name I've only seen in text turns out to be pronounced differently than my first guess. I saw it a lot in the late 2000s and early 2010s, not just with Zebus but with loads of things. I usually just go, oh so that's what it is, and easily make the change. Even if I use them for years, I've never had any difficulty dropping the likes of Zebes and Tidus for Zebus and Tidus. Just don't come near me with that Zebes crap. That rhymes with heebie-jeebies, it couldn't possibly be right. But anyway, Talon 4 is also important enough for a logbook entry. What I learn here is that Phazon is having such a bad effect on the atmosphere that Talon 4 is expected to become uninhabitable in 25 years if it keeps up. There's also the planet Twin Tabula, which originates a disease known as Twin Fever. I don't even know where to start making fun of that. And then there's Ore Mine 2, but there's no Ore Mine 1. I climb the platforms around the walls to grab the item in the middle. This is the Super Missile. Rather than being its own weapon with its own ammo like the 2D games, this is used by charging a normal shot and then firing a missile, using up 5 missiles at once. It's very damaging, but if you miss, you have just wasted 5 missiles. I turn around and open the blue door with a blast shield to reach Save Station D, then back out and through the purple door at the opposite end of the room. This leads into the West Tower entrance, our next bamboo-filled tunnel. There's another blast shield at the end leading into the West Tower. I scan a switch to activate a lift, ride it up, and go through the door at the top to reach the control tower. It's a small room with another door not far in front that locks as soon as I enter. I have a few space pirates to take down, which are followed by the arrival of the new flying pirate. I make sure to scan. Apart from the fact they fly, they fight pretty much the same as normal pirates. But when you kill them, they make one last attempt to suicide bomb you before their jetpacks explode. Deal with about 4 of them and the door unlocks. Through it into the East Tower where there's another lift to ride down, and then go through the next door into the Aether Lab entryway. As I said before, this was the last of the Prime trilogy I owned, so when I first saw the name I was thinking the devs already had bits of Prime 2 planned and this place would foreshadow it, since it shares the name with that game's planet. More bamboos and another door into Research Lab Aether, and in here we can see a Metroid in the middle of its Phazon infusion. This is the first Metroid in the game, and the first one seen by Samus since the original Zebus incident, so it's important enough to get a little cutscene. I scan to find these specifically referred to as Talon Metroids, the Phazon infusion making them almost twice as large as a normal one. Then he breaks out of containment. The Metroid will keep lunging at me trying to latch on and drain all my life. This one makes the mistake of stopping to grow itself a little more while I keep shooting, so it blows up in no time. A nearby monitor claims that Metroid containment is now 100% effective. Then another space pirate shoots me in the back while I'm reading the rest. After I deal with him, there's more pirate data to collect. This log was written at the start of the Metroid Phazon experiment and covers the transfer of the Metroids to Talon 4. There's more data up here. This one talks about Ridley's reconstruction, where we learn Ridley is a codename and he's otherwise known as Geoform 187. They found his mangled body on Zebus and put him through an incredibly painful cybernetic reconstruction, resulting in him also being more powerful. They called the result Meta Ridley. It's well known that there was a planned Meta Kraid who was modelled but scrapped. Kraid did make a return recently, but it would be nice to see him get a 3D boss fight too someday. Through the broken window I find more pirate data on the next monitor on the way down. Despite all the everything caused by Phazon infusion, the pirates are now confident enough to start infusing on their own species, which they're calling Project Helix. There are Phazon madness concerns, but don't worry about it, it'll be fine. Through the window and I test out a super missile on one of the pirates below. It's a fun one to use on pirates, it sends them flying. As I follow its corpse I spot a missile expansion, but first I have to deal with the rest of them below. There's a tank holding an energy tank down here. One missile is all it takes. Also more pirate data. The pirates have started dissecting Metroids to figure out how they work, but that left them with more questions than answers. They can't figure out how Metroids can drain a victim's life force without causing them to lose any blood or other vital fluids. They're basically soul stealers. The series takes place in the future of the Mortal Kombat series, and Metroids are the descendants of Shang Tsung confirmed. More pirate data nearby. They're giving up on learning how to replicate Metroid powers and are settling for using the Metroids themselves instead. First step is figuring out how to tame them, then finding a way to shield them from the cold. If those two things can be accomplished, a small group of Metroids can extinct entire planets easily. And then they consider finding a way to harness the energy they drain from their victims for near infinite power. Considering later reports of Metroid incidents in this game, I don't trust these lot to ever figure that out even if I weren't killing them all. Now for that missile expansion. I have to jump onto this platform and roll carefully along the narrow catwalk with no rails. First time, I get to it and fall at the very last second. It takes 3 attempts to grab it. There's a purple door hidden in the floor under some crates, so I open it and drop through into the research core access. A new enemy variant to scan down here, the Ice Beetle. Then through the purple door in front of me into the research core. Another tall room, this time starting at the top. It's also filled with more space pirates. There's a monitor to scan here to remove a section of a shield keeping me from this item down at the bottom. I drop down to the next level, seeing that some of these force fields are holding back Metroids. I keep dropping down to find another computer to scan that removes a second part of the shield. I take out the auto turrets below and drop to the bottom to see that the only other door in here is a white one I can't open yet. There's also the computer to disarm the final section of the shield, allowing me to grab my newest item, the thermal visor. As soon as this is obtained, the power goes out in the lab, shutting off the door I came in through. With the lights out too, I need the thermal visor so I can lock onto the heat of the space pirates dropping down at me. After dealing with them, I get climbing back up. The Metroids also start breaking free, so I have to deal with those too. Next to the powerless door, the thermal visor can pick up some kind of power source. The wave beam is electric, so I can lock onto it and shoot to restore power to it. The lights stay out though. Back in the research core access, we have the bane of my first full playthrough of this game, the sentry drone. I get a scan in, but it interferes with my vision, leaving the thermal visor the only way to deal with it. They are very powerful with their lasers and machine guns, and there's 2 of them, so my health plummets. I had so many deaths to these in this part 15 years back, but either the remaster is easier or I've gotten so much better since because I only lose 2 energy tanks to them before they go down. Now I just have to keep backtracking in the dark. Research Lab Aether has repopulated, but I mostly try to ignore them and barge past them. I'm really paranoid about getting killed on the way out based on past experience, so I don't want to waste health fighting. To really mess with the player, the thermal visor shows Metroids in the opaque tanks, but they don't break out thankfully. I get back to Safe Station D and finally feel some relief. Sentry drones have also taken over the observatory access, but the rest of the journey back out into the ruined courtyard is uneventful. With the thermal visor, I can now power on the one door up here I couldn't go through before, but first the power source is blocked by Cordite. The super missiles can destroy Cordite, so that's a few more odd locations to go back to and check out now. The newly powered door leads into the quarantine access. A couple more bamboos and to a door leading to the North Quarantine Tunnel. This one has me morphballing through a tunnel while bamboos float overhead and try to shoot me. The door at the end leads into the Quarantine Cave, and I drop down to find out what this Project Titan I was reading up on is all about. There's just a mass of rocks. But then a glowing rock floats up from behind Samos and the mass starts shaking. They come together to form the main boss of Phendrana Drifts, Thardus. As usual, first thing I do is scan. The logbook warns that Thardus can give off radiation that prevents my targeting systems from locking onto it. I start by swapping to the thermal visor and can see that one of its rocks is much hotter than the rest. While I do that, Thardus starts punching the ground to create little waves of icicles. After enough damage to that segment, it bursts to overload the thermal visor. That weak segment is still there, but now its exterior is gone and I can lock on with the combat visor. Don't let Thardus' icicles hit you or you'll be frozen in place and have to mash to break free. On top of that, Thardus can also curl into a giant ball and roll all over the place. It is possible to hit the weak spot during this, but you can't lock on. After enough damage, that segment is destroyed completely. My thermal visor is usable again as I find the weak spot has now moved to a different segment, so I get to work. This time Thardus starts having rocks rise from the ground and fly into me. Once again, breaking the exterior overloads the thermal visor. It's easier to destroy this time because Thardus doesn't bother rolling, letting me keep locked on and dodging its icicle attack until it's gone. The weak spot moves on to its other wrist. That one goes without much of note happening. But then Thardus suddenly gets covered in lightning. The result is a snowstorm that makes it almost impossible to see in the combat visor. Back to the thermal, and the 4th weak spot has appeared on its other leg. So of course, when the thermal visor next overloads, I don't have much to see other than Thardus barreling towards me and barely missing me. After dealing with that leg, the weak spot has moved on to one of the massive rocks in its back. Thankfully, it makes for a much bigger target while it's rolling. Once that one is destroyed, it next goes even higher to a smaller but still large rock just above its head. The destruction of that segment has it down to the last quarter or so of health. Thardus throws a big tantrum and decides that giving me my visibility back will make things harder for me. Now it's the big central rock making up its body that the weak spot is hiding in. Saving the easiest target for last, all of Thardus' remaining health is in this spot. It's not long before Thardus is done for. This several minute long fight took less health from me than a single 20-second fight against those 2 sentry drones. Thardus collapses and gets in one last petty shot to the back of Samus's head. It's funnier that she actually reacts. If she'd been completely stoic and unaffected, it wouldn't have been as memorable. Thardus leaves behind an upgrade that is clearly for my Morph Ball. It's the Spider Ball. The only item from the first 2 games to not make a return in Super comes back here. Well, there's the Long Beam, but that's clearly just become part of the default setup in just about every game after Metroid 2. And besides, shut the fuck up about the Long Beam. No one cares about the Long Beam. Why are you even bringing it up? The Spider Ball's first ability is being able to roll up these magnetic rails I've been seeing all over. Its second ability is to make the Morph Ball hideous. I really don't like how it looks. The normal Morph Ball is sleek and cool. With the Spider Ball, those glowing green ends make it look like a cheap yo-yo. Using the tracks, I move to this purple door in the back opposite where I entered from. This leads into the South Quarantine Tunnel. Just like the North one, the door at the end leads to the transport to Magmoor Cavern South. So I take the lift here down. There's 2 doors in here, first the blast shield door behind the lift to reach save station Magmoor B. Then the purple door on the opposite side to transport Tunnel C. A cramped corridor filled with flamethrowers on the way to the door to Magmoor Workstation. Another large open room like the much earlier Triclops pit. I ignore the flying pirates here and jump the platforms to the blue door to the right. This takes me to the Workstation Tunnel. It's another glass tunnel, but there's a white door at the end, so this is not the room I'm wanting. I go back, head to the opposite side of the room for another blue door into the South Core Tunnel. We have a new scan in here with the Puddle Spore. Looks just like a black spore spawn from Super Metroid. Shooting it when its mouth opens will have it flip upside down and create a platform for me to cross the lava with. At the end of the tunnel is a door into the geothermal core. In the lava are these rotating lift platforms, but I know I can't do anything with these yet. I realise I've gone the wrong way and return to Phendrana. Back in the quarantine cave where Sheegoth has replaced Thardus and a sentry drone is now in the quarantine access, I backtrack all the way to the lift down into North Magmoor. And from there I return to the lava lake, close to where I first entered this place from the Chozo ruins. I can super missile this one rock pillar to break it, revealing my second Chozo artifact, the Artifact of Nature. Then it's back up the nearby lift to Chozo ruins north. First I go back to the main plaza to finally use that half pipe there. At this point the Plated Beetle mini-boss appears here as a regular enemy. Boosting up the half pipe I can reach another missile expansion. My next revisited room is the ruined fountain. I curl up into the fountain and have it launch me into the magnetic rail on the ceiling. It goes into this tunnel and drops me into my next missile expansion. Next up is the watery hall where I found the charge beam. Time to finally bomb open that tunnel next to where I found the beam. It leads to a door with a blast shield that opens into the dynamo access. A very short empty tunnel to another blast shield door leading into the dynamo. First there's a magnetic rail to the left. I ride it all the way up to find another missile expansion. I then drop down, missile the grate to the right to find another missile expansion already. I then climb up to the top of the gathering hall again. I can get on these red lights next to the door to the east atrium and double jump up to this grate. I bomb it open and roll inside for yet another missile expansion. The furnace is next with the magnetic rail right next to the ball tunnel at the start. It leads into a higher section of a tunnel with disappearing floor that is much easier to get through with the spring ball instead of having to rely on the bombs. It drops me into a room with a white door and even more rails. Walking along the rails I can scan the tougher plated parasite. There's also some more Chozo lore to the left. The writer wonders what Phazon truly is and where the meteor that brought it even came from. They consider the possibility that it may not have been random chance, that it was forged by an alien race and sent out into space. But a worse thought for them is the idea that the meteor was a broken off chunk of a dead planet, and that an entire Phazon planet may exist out there. If so, what if there were other meteors like the one that hit Talon that broke off and hit other planets out there, spreading the corruption from Phazon around the universe? If Talon 4 is the only victim of Phazon, then at least it can be dealt with for good here. Underneath the lore is a small tunnel into Crossway Access West, and then a purple door leading into the Crossway. There's another white door to the side and a half pipe taking up much of the room. I boost up the other end of the half pipe to reach 3 more pieces of Chozo lore right next to each other. But first, the hint system interrupts to tell me it's picked up abnormally low temperatures in the region and points me to a room incredibly close to where I am now. I'm on my way, I'm nearly there, be patient. The first lore I scan is a message for Samus left by the Chozo of the past, basically saying, getting rid of the Phazon will be hard, but just do it. The second has the writer unsure if their method of sealing away the Phazon will work, but all they can do is trust that the method with the 12 artifacts will be enough. The third talks about how Chozo were born with the form of Future Sight, but at some point they started having prophecies of something that came to be known as the Worm. Said to be born from a poisoned womb, which to me, who's played this game before, sounds like foreshadowing that something has been born in the Impact Crater where the Phazon starts from. When I turn around I can see a missile expansion high up at the end of the tunnel. There's also some cordite nearby to blow up to reveal a purple symbol. I scan it to activate it. This powers on a bomb slot above me and reveals some magnetic rails, so I get in the half pipe and boost myself high enough to attach to it, roll to the slot, bomb jump inside and bomb it to power on another at the other end and reveal another magnetic rail. I do the same thing at the other end of the half pipe and bomb that slot to lower this piston blocking a tunnel. I get on top and let it raise me to the top, then roll off to the left to grab the missile expansion. I next go into the corridor past a switch leading to a blast shield door that opens into the Elder Hall access. A short corridor with some scarabs leading into the Hall of the Elders. I walk towards this Chozo statue only for the room to darken and an enemy that does my head in to appear. I scan the Chozo ghost, the lingering spirits of dead Chozo corrupted by Phazon drawn to Chozo religious sites. This one isn't too bad because there's just the one of them. They fire some kind of energy attack before dashing off and vanishing. Then when they reappear I get them with a charged shot to stun them and repeat the process until it's dead. The lights turn back on and the hands of the Chozo statue glow and the doors unlock. There's more Chozo lore behind the statue. This one gives an explanation of how Chozo ghosts can manifest with, our wills are just better than everyone else's. I finally scan a magnetic rail to get it entered into the logbook. I get on the statue's hands and curl up. You can tell this statue is of an elder because it bowls me like a pensioner, along the path in front of it and up the ramp into the rail I just scanned. It leads to a bomb slot that, when activated, reveals 3 more slots that are purple, white and red. I can only deal with purple right now as I shoot it with the wave beam to gain access. I then bomb it to rotate the elder statue's bowling lane. I get back in its hands which sends me through an underground tunnel and then up to a higher area. The lane then goes back to normal and I roll along this tunnel to the door hidden behind a force field. I go through it into the reflecting pool access, and through the door at the end of that into the reflecting pool itself. I scan the bottom of the pool to find there are fractures in the drain cover, so I go down there and bomb it. With it broken, the pool drains to create another half pipe. I try boosting up to the second level, dealing with the stone toads dotted about the place. Once I get up, I first go through this blue door with a blast shield to find save station 3. There's a ball tunnel in here, but I'll deal with that later. Back into the reflecting pool, I cross to the opposite side to blow up another blast shield to find the antechamber. This is a tiny room with just my newest weapon inside. It's the ice beam. Apart from freezing enemies with a charge shot, it can open white doors. It's also the slowest firing beam in the game. Once I get into the reflecting pool, I ignore the white door in here for now and return to save station 3. This is where I'll be ending things for now. I actually wrote both videos as one big script with the intention of cutting it in half, because I am not making another video that's over 30,000 words long, and this is the most natural point I can find halfway through. It's been a joy to come back to this game, which I'll get into more at the end of the second part, where we'll get through the entire rest of the game.